Morning light flooded the lobby of NovaCore Systems headquarters in Midtown Atlanta. A single dad in a maintenance uniform stepped out from the repair room carrying an old toolbox with a faded logo on its lid. The young CEO stopped in her tracks, eyebrows raised. "Why is my company's logo on your toolbox?" Employees nearby snickered. "Probably stolen." The man looked at her for just 1 second, his voice calm and steady. "Because I built it before you bought it." The entire lobby fell silent. No one knew that this maintenance worker was the man who designed the very first system that kept her company alive. Darius Cole was 40 years old, but his hands told the story of someone who had lived twice that long. Calloused fingers, permanent grease stains, scars from 1,000 repairs. His deep brown skin bore the marks of years spent working in cramped spaces under harsh lights, fixing what others broke. He worked as a maintenance technician at NovaCore Systems, one of the biggest tech corporations in the South. But 10 years ago, he was something completely different. Back then, Darius was a mechanical engineer and co-founder of a small hardware startup called OmniForge Labs. He had built the first prototype with his own hands, working 16-hour days in a cramped garage in southwest Atlanta. His wife Alicia was alive then, cheering him on through every failure and breakthrough. She'd bring him coffee at midnight, rub his shoulders when the code wouldn't compile, tell him he was building something that would change the world. But then everything changed. Alicia died in a car accident when their daughter Naomi was just 6 months old. The grief was unbearable. Darius's business partners saw weakness, saw opportunity. They forced him out, bought his shares for pennies, and rebranded the company. He signed the papers in a fog, barely reading them, just wanting to hold his baby girl and disappear. He remembered sitting in the lawyer's office, Naomi crying in her carrier beside him, and thinking that none of it mattered anymore. Not the patents, not the prototypes, not the future he'd dreamed of. Only she mattered. Now, 10 years later, that small startup had become NovaCore Systems. And Darius, he was invisible. Just another maintenance worker in blue coveralls, fixing broken printers and faulty air conditioners. Nobody looked at him twice. Nobody asked questions. That was exactly how he wanted it. This morning, Darius was on the 32nd floor, repairing a jammed industrial printer. His daughter Naomi, now 9 years old, was waiting for him at home. She had a school project due tomorrow, and he'd promised to help her build a volcano model tonight. She'd been excited about it all week, talking about lava and eruptions and how she wanted to add extra baking soda to make it really explode. Single dad life meant every minute counted. He wiped his hands on a rag and picked up his toolbox. It was old, silver metal, dented from years of use. Mekaboker, the lid, barely visible under layers of scratches, was a faded logo and some etched letters. Property of DC. He had carved those letters himself back when he still believed his name would mean something. Back when he thought legacy was about recognition rather than survival. Darius headed toward the elevator, his mind already on grocery shopping and homework help. They were running low on eggs and bread. Naomi wanted spaghetti for dinner. He'd have to stop at the store on the way home, which meant he'd be cutting it close on time. Then he heard the sharp click of heels on marble. Selene Hart, the CEO. 31 years old, brilliant, ambitious, and ruthless. Her dark skin glowed against the crisp white of her power suit, her natural hair styled in an elegant twist. She had inherited NovaCore Systems from her father 2 years ago and turned it into a billion-dollar empire. She wore power suits like armor and spoke in clipped, commanding sentences. Everyone feared her. Darius had heard stories. Executives fired in 5-minute meetings, entire departments restructured overnight, competitors crushed with surgical precision. Darius had seen her from a distance before, but they had never spoken. Why would they? She was the queen of the tower. He was the man who fixed the toilets. But today, she stopped right in front of him. Her brown eyes locked onto his toolbox with an intensity that made the air feel heavier. Wait. Darius froze. Selene pointed at the faded logo on the lid. Why is my company's logo on your toolbox? Her voice was ice cold, suspicious. Each word carefully measured, weighted with authority. Employees in the hallway turned to stare. Phones came out. This was the kind of drama that would be all over the company's Slack channels within minutes. Darius looked down at the box, then back at her. It's an old one, ma'am, from before the rebrand. From before the rebrand? Selene's eyes narrowed. That logo hasn't been used in over a decade. A junior manager passing by smirked. Probably stolen from storage. Others chuckled. Someone whispered, "Maintenance always taking stuff." Darius felt the heat rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. Years of swallowing pride had taught him that much. I didn't steal it. Then where did you get it? Selene's tone suggested she'd already decided the answer. Darius met her gaze, his jaw tight. For a moment, he considered just apologizing, just letting it go, just walking away like he always did. But something in him, maybe exhaustion, maybe the weight of 10 years of silence, pushed the words out. Because I built it before you bought it. The hallway went completely silent. Even the elevator music seemed to pause. Selene blinked, confused. What did you just say? Darius said nothing. He simply turned and walked toward the elevator, his toolbox swinging gently at his side. He'd said enough. More than enough. Behind him, Selene's voice rang out sharp and furious. Stop him. I want security to check his background now. Within minutes, 2 security guards appeared. They weren't subtle. One of them grabbed Darius's arm while the other took his toolbox. Their grips were firm, professional, the kind that said they'd done this before. Sir, we need you to come with us. Employees gathered in clusters, whispering, phones out, recording. Darius didn't resist. He knew how this looked. A maintenance worker with a mysterious toolbox, a CEO demanding answers. In their eyes, he was guilty until proven innocent. In their eyes, people like him didn't build things. They just fixed what others broke. Selene stood in the center of the lobby, arms crossed, watching like a judge presiding over a trial. Open it, she commanded. The guard flipped the toolbox open. Inside were wrenches, screwdrivers, wire cutters, a small soldering iron. Nothing unusual. Nothing expensive. Just the tools of a man who worked with his hands. But Selene wasn't satisfied. Check his employee file. I want to know everything about this man. One of the HR managers hurried over with a tablet, scrolling frantically. Darius Cole, hired 3 years ago as a maintenance technician. No prior record with the company, clean background check, no disciplinary issues. Actually, his supervisor notes say he's one of the most reliable workers they have. Selene frowned. 3 years. And before that? Looks like he worked at various repair shops around Atlanta. Nothing notable. One reference mentions he's good with electrical systems. Darius stood silently, his face unreadable. He'd learned long ago that defending yourself to people who'd already made up their minds was a waste of breath. A young employee in a designer suit laughed. Maybe he's a hoarder. Old guy probably found it in a dumpster. More laughter rippled through the crowd. Someone said, yeah, probably thought he could sell it on eBay. Selene raised a hand, silencing them. Mr. Cole, I'll ask you one more time. Where did you get that toolbox? Darius looked at her. Really looked at her. He saw her father in her eyes. The same sharpness, the same certainty, the same way of looking at people like they were problems to be solved rather than humans to be understood. But none of the humility that her father had developed in his later years. I told you already, Darius said quietly. I built it before you bought it. That's impossible. This company was founded by my father and his partners. There was no you. Darius's lips pressed into a thin line. He didn't argue. What was the point? She'd already decided what was true. Selene's patience snapped. You know what? I don't have time for riddles. If you stole company property, I'll have you arrested. If you're lying, you're fired. She turned to security. Escort him out and confiscate that toolbox as evidence. Wait. The voice came from the back of the crowd. An older black man in a white lab coat pushed through. His name was Calvin Mensah, one of the senior engineers who had been with the company since the OmniForge Labs days. His graying hair and weathered face spoke of years in the industry. He stared at Darius, eyes wide with recognition. Darius? Darius Cole? Selene turned sharply. You know him? Calvin ignored her, stepping closer to Darius. His hands were shaking. Sir, is it really you? Darius gave a small nod. Calvin's face went pale. Oh my God, it is you. His voice cracked. We all thought you left the country. Someone said you went to Ghana. Someone else said California, but you've been here the whole time. Selene's frustration boiled over. Would someone please explain what's going on? Calvin turned to her, his voice shaking with a mixture of awe and shame. Ma'am, this man isn't a thief. He's the co-founder of OmniForge Labs, the original company. He designed the first prototype that your father's team built this entire empire on. Every system we run, every product we sell, it all started with his designs. The lobby erupted in shocked murmurs. People lowered their phones. The laughter died completely. Selene stared at Calvin, then at Darius, her expression shifting from anger to confusion, to something that looked almost like fear. That's impossible. The co-founder was listed as missing. He disappeared years ago. I didn't disappear, Darius said quietly. I just stopped mattering. Selene's mouth opened, but no words came out. She looked down at the toolbox again, this time with different eyes, with eyes that were starting to see. Calvin knelt beside it, running his fingers over the faded logo like he was touching a holy relic. I remember this. You used to bring it to the lab every day. You'd work on prototypes until 3 a.m, then go home and take care of your baby daughter. We used to joke that you ran on coffee and determination. Darius's jaw tightened. Naomi. Her name is Naomi. Calvin nodded, tears forming in his eyes. You left right after Alicia died. We all thought you went abroad to start over. We thought you'd become a consultant somewhere, making millions. But you've been here, working maintenance. I needed work. I needed to provide. NovaCore was hiring maintenance staff. No one asked questions. No one cared who I used to be. Selene finally found her voice. Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you tell anyone who you were? Darius looked at her, his eyes tired but steady. Because titles don't pay rent. And my daughter needed a father, not a ghost chasing credit. She needed me to pick her up from school, help with homework, make dinner, read bedtime stories. That's what mattered, not proving to the world that I used to be somebody. The crowd was completely silent now. Even the mockers had gone quiet, shame written on their faces. Selene felt something unfamiliar twist in her chest. Shame. Deep, burning shame. She looked at the security guard still holding Darius's arm. Let him go. Now. They released him immediately, stepping back like they'd been holding fire. Darius picked up his toolbox, checking to make sure nothing was broken. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, the same hands that had built the foundation of a billion-dollar empire. Selene stepped closer, her voice softer now. Mr. Cole, I owe you an apology. You don't owe me anything, Darius said. You didn't know. But I should have asked before I accused. I should have treated you with basic human dignity regardless of your job title. Darius shrugged. People see what they expect to see. I'm in a maintenance uniform, so I must be nobody. It's how the world works. He turned to leave, but Selene's voice stopped him. Wait, please. Darius paused. Selene took a breath. I want to make this right. Darius looked back at her, his expression unreadable. You can't make it right. What's done is done. 10 years done. And with that, he walked toward the elevator, leaving Selene standing alone in the lobby, surrounded by 100 staring employees. For the first time in her life, she felt small. Selene stood frozen in the lobby, her mind racing. She pulled out her phone and called her executive assistant. Get me every file on the original OmniForge founders. Names, contracts, patents, everything. 10 minutes. Then she turned to Calvin Mensah. Walk with me. They headed to her private office on the top floor. Once inside, Selene poured water with shaking hands. Tell me everything about Darius Cole. Calvin sat down slowly, like the weight of the memories was physical. Darius was the heart of OmniForge, not just a co-founder, the engineer, the visionary. Your father handled business and funding, but Darius built everything. Selene listened, her throat tight. The first prototype that became our flagship line? Darius designed it in his garage while his wife was pregnant. 16-hour days. He believed in the vision more than anyone. He used to say he was building a future for his family. What happened? Calvin took a breath. His wife died. Alicia. She was the one who convinced Darius to start the company. She believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. His voice cracked. Drunk driver. Red light. She died instantly. Darius was at the lab when he got the call. 6-month-old baby at home. Naomi. Selene felt her stomach drop. Darius fell apart. We all did. No family, no support. He tried working, but you could see it. He was drowning. He'd come to meetings with baby formula on his shirt. He'd fall asleep at his desk. He stopped coming, missed meetings. Your father and the partners got nervous. Investors were demanding results. They thought he'd abandoned them. They thought he'd chosen grief over responsibility. So they forced him out. Calvin nodded grimly. $50,000 for shares worth millions now. He couldn't negotiate, could barely function, signed everything just to make the pain stop. I remember the day he came to clean out his desk. He didn't even look at us, just packed his tools and left. Selene felt sick. My father never told me. He thought Darius would take the money and start over. No one knew he'd end up working here as maintenance. When I saw him today, I thought I was seeing a ghost. A knock. Selene's assistant entered with a thick folder. Your files, ma'am. Selene took them, hands trembling. First document, original partnership agreement. 3 names, 3 signatures. Darius Cole listed first. She flipped pages. Technical drawings initialed DC. Patents with Darius Cole as primary inventor. Emails from her father calling Darius's designs revolutionary and the future of the industry. A photograph. 3 men in a garage with a crude prototype. Her father, young and hungry. Darius in the middle, smiling, holding a baby carrier. The caption on the back read, "The team that will change everything." Financial statements. Buyout amount, $50,000. For the man who built a billion-dollar empire. Then something made her freeze. A handwritten note from her father, yellowed, 15 years old. "Darius is the best engineer I've ever met. He sees what others can't. Well, if this company succeeds, it's because of him. I hope one day to make this right. But for now, survival first." Selene set it down, hands shaking. She looked at Calvin. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" Calvin met her gaze. "Shame is easier to bury than face. Your father talked about reaching out to Darius for years. But the years became a decade, and guilt became a wall." Selene stood abruptly. "I need to find him." She grabbed her coat. Calvin called after her. "He's had 10 years to build walls. Then I'll climb them." She went straight to HR. Darius Cole's address, now. Patricia looked up nervously. "We can't give out employee information without consent." Selene leaned on the desk. "That man built this company. I humiliated him publicly. I'm apologizing today." Patricia hesitated, then nodded. She printed a slip of paper. Selene grabbed it, heading to the elevator. The doors opened. Darius stepped out, surprised. "Forgot something," he said, holding a screwdriver. Selene stepped in beside him. Doors closed. Silence. The elevator descended. Finally, Selene spoke. "I read your files." Darius said nothing. "The designs? Patents? Partnership agreement? Buyout papers?" Darius stared ahead. "I found my father's note about you." Darius's jaw tightened. "Your father was a good businessman. He stole from you. He bought me out. I signed willingly. You were grieving, newborn baby. You couldn't negotiate." Darius looked at her, eyes tired but clear. "What do you want, Miss Hart? Anger? Absolution?" Selene's voice softened. "I want to give you what you deserve." Darius shook his head. "I don't need money, don't need titles. I have what I need." "What's that?" "Time with my daughter, roof over our heads, food on the table." Ground floor. Doors opened. Darius stepped out. Selene followed into the parking lot. "Let me make a statement. Tell people the truth." Darius stopped and turned. "You want the truth?" His voice was calm but steel underneath. "I built machines that outlasted my credit. I chose my daughter over pride. And I'd choose her again. I don't need the world to know my name to sleep at night." Selene felt tears. "It's not fair." Darius smiled sadly. "Fairness is a luxury. I'm a single dad. Gave up on fair a long time ago. Focus on what I control." He walked toward his pickup. Selene called out, "What if I want to build something new, with you, as partners?" Darius paused, turned slowly. "Why?" "This company runs on your genius. I've coasted on autopilot. I want to create something that matters. Can't do it without someone who knows how to build from nothing." Darius studied her, saw something different. Not arrogance, humility, sincerity. "I'll think about it." He climbed in and drove away. Selene stood alone, watching taillights disappear. For the first time in 2 years, she had something to prove. Not to the board, not to shareholders, to herself. But the next morning changed everything. Security called her office. "Ma'am, there's an older engineer here. Says Darius Cole sent him." Selene rushed to the lobby. An elderly black man stood there, holding blueprints. "Miss Hart, I'm Jerome Walker. Worked with Darius 15 years ago. Darius didn't send me, but I heard what happened yesterday. Thought you should see these. He unrolled the blueprints on the reception desk. These are Darius's original designs, the ones your father's team built the company on. Selene stared. Every detail, every calculation, pure genius. But there's more. Jerome pulled out a faded journal. Darius kept notes, plans for next-generation systems, revolutionary ideas he never got to build. Selene's breath caught. He abandoned these? No. He gave them up for Naomi. He chose being present over being remembered. Jerome looked at her seriously. Darius Cole isn't bitter, but he deserves better than maintenance work. If you're serious about making this right, don't just offer him a title. Give him what he never had. What's that? A true partnership, respect, and the freedom to build again. Selene held the journal carefully. Thank you for bringing this. Jerome nodded. Darius is the best man I know. Don't waste this chance. He left. Selene stood there, journal in hand. Inside were sketches, formulas, dreams deferred. She made a decision, pulled out her phone. Cancel all my meetings today. I'm rewriting our company's future. She looked at the journal again. On the first page, Darius had written something years ago. Build things that outlast you. Love people more than projects. Be present for what matters. Selene felt tears. For the first time, she understood. Success wasn't about being the smartest in the room. It was about recognizing genius when it stood quietly in front of you, and having the courage to make things right. The next morning, Selene called an emergency all-staff meeting. Every employee in the building packed into the main auditorium. Rumors had been flying since yesterday's lobby incident. People whispered about lawsuits, firings, scandal. Selene took the stage, her expression serious. Yesterday, I made a mistake. The room went quiet. I accused a man of theft without knowing the facts. I humiliated him publicly, and in doing so, I humiliated this entire company. She clicked a remote. A projection appeared on the screen behind her, a photo from 15 years ago. 3 men standing in front of a garage, holding a metal prototype. One of them was a younger Darius Cole. This man is Darius Cole. Some of you saw him yesterday. Most of you know him as a maintenance worker. Selene paused. But the truth is, Darius Cole is the reason this company exists. She showed another slide. Patent documents, technical drawings, all signed by Darius. He co-founded OmniForge Labs, the company my father acquired and rebranded into NovaCore Systems. Every product we make today is built on the foundation he created. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Selene's voice grew stronger. Darius lost his wife. He was forced out while he was grieving. And instead of suing us, instead of fighting for credit, he worked quietly in our building for 3 years, fixing our mistakes, keeping our systems running. She looked directly at the employees who had mocked him. And some of you laughed at him. The room was utterly silent. Let me be clear. If I ever hear anyone in this company disrespect another human being based on their job title, they will be gone. Darius Cole has more integrity in his toolbox than some of you have in your entire careers. Applause started slowly, then built into a wave. Selene held up her hand. I've asked Mr. Cole to join us today. I don't know if he'll come, but if he does, I want you to show him the respect he's always deserved. The auditorium doors opened. Darius walked in, wearing a clean button-down shirt and jeans. Beside him, holding his hand, was his daughter Naomi. She wore a bright yellow dress and looked around with wide, curious eyes. The entire room stood up. The applause was thunderous. Darius looked uncomfortable, but Naomi beamed with pride. Selene walked down from the stage and approached them. She knelt down to Naomi's level. "You must be Naomi." The girl nodded shyly. "Your dad is a hero. Did you know that?" Naomi looked up at Darius and smiled. "I already knew." Selene stood and extended her hand to Darius. "Thank you for coming." Darius shook her hand. "You didn't have to do this." "Yes, I did." Selene turned to address the crowd again. "I've offered Mr. Cole a position as Chief Innovation Officer. He hasn't accepted yet. But whether he does or not, his legacy will be honored." She gestured to a plaque being unveiled on the wall. It read, "In honor of Darius Cole, builder of beginnings." Darius stared at it, his eyes glistening. Naomi squeezed his hand. "That's you, Daddy." Darius nodded, unable to speak. Selene whispered to him, "You said titles don't matter, but respect does. Let them give you this." Darius looked at his daughter, then at the crowd, then back at Selene. He nodded. After the meeting, Selene invited Darius and Naomi to her office. Naomi sat on the couch, swinging her legs and looking at the Atlanta skyline. Darius and Selene stood by the window. "You could have sued us for billions," Selene said quietly. Darius shrugged. "Money doesn't bring back time. But it could have given you options." "I had options. I chose the one that mattered." Selene looked at him. "How do you do it? How do you let go of something you built and not feel bitter?" Darius was quiet for a moment. "Because I didn't lose what I built. I just stopped owning it. There's a difference." Selene frowned. "I don't understand." Darius pointed at the city below. "See those buildings? Someone designed them. Someone poured the concrete. Someone wired the lights. But do you know their names?" Selena shook her head. "Exactly. But the buildings still stand. The work still matters. That's what I learned." He turned to her. "Titles fade. Credit fades. But the things we build, they live on." Selene felt a lump in her throat. "So you'll turn down my offer?" Darius smiled. "I didn't say that. I'll accept, on one condition." "Name it." Darius nodded toward Naomi. "I leave every day at 3:30, no exceptions. I have a daughter to raise." Selene smiled, relief flooding through her. "Deal." They shook hands. Naomi looked up from the couch. "Daddy, does this mean we can stop eating ramen every night?" Darius laughed, a real, deep laugh. "Yes, sweetheart. We can upgrade to spaghetti." Selene grinned. "I think we can do better than that." As they left the office together, Selene watched Darius and Naomi walk down the hallway, hand in hand. She thought about her father, about legacy, about what it meant to build something that lasted. And for the first time, she understood. It wasn't about the name on the door. It was about the hands that built it. 6 months later, NovaCore Systems launched a revolutionary new product line designed by Darius Cole. The press called it genius. Industry leaders called it visionary. Tech magazines put Darius on their covers with headlines like "The Engineer Who Never Left" and "Building from the Shadows." But Darius called it what it was: work. He still left at 3:30 every day, still helped Naomi with homework, still made dinner, read bedtime stories, attended school plays. On the day of the product launch, a reporter asked him, "What does success mean to you now?" Darius smiled. "I used to think success meant everyone knowing your name. But I was wrong. Real success is knowing that what you built helps someone, somewhere, live a better life." He looked at Naomi, standing beside him in her Sunday best. "I used to build machines. Now I build moments with my daughter. And you know what? That's the best thing I've ever created." Darius and Naomi walked out of the NovaCore building into the evening light. The camera panned up to the NovaCore Systems sign. Beneath it, a new plaque had been installed. Built on the foundation of Darius Cole, builder of beginnings. The sun set behind the building, painting the Atlanta skyline in gold and orange. Fade to black. Honor always finds its way back home,